Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the James Webb Telescope. Christmas definitely came on December 25th this year, especially for those of you out there who are space enthusiasts, and you know that's because the launch of the James Webb Telescope finally happened on Christmas Day itself. If you don't know, the James Webb Telescope is the largest and most powerful telescope ever developed, with its creation beginning back in 1996. The telescope was created with help from NASA, the Canadian Space Agency, and the European Space Agency, and it cost around $500 million to make. The launch of the telescope has been long awaited, as it was delayed more times than Cyberpunk. Other than the fact that we all had to wait with bated breath, the reason this launch is so exciting is because for the next several decades, this telescope will show us parts of the universe that were previously unseeable to us. We'll get a closer look at and a chance to explore other planets, we'll see the birth of stars, and it might even give us a peek into how the very first galaxies were formed. Basically, this thing might show us more about the universe than we've ever had access to before. It is truly magnificent. Right now, the telescope is passing through its most crucial phase, which is the unfurling of the sun protective shield, and if all goes well, which it seems to be thanks to the ground team working on it every step of the way, we are very close to seeing some of the most amazing space discoveries in human history. In our number 9 spot today, we have the malaria vaccine. In October of last year, the World Health Organization made an important announcement when they approved the world's very first malaria vaccine for kids. There's a couple reasons why this deserved a spot on today's list. The first one being because it is the first vaccine against any parasitic disease, which is a step forward for the world of medicine. But more importantly, this vaccine is crucial because malaria is still one of the most dangerous diseases on the entire planet, and it's one that takes the lives of over 500,000 people annually. The new vaccine cost over $750 million to make, and it began being created and tested all the way back in 1987, so it certainly was not an easy road by any means. This new vaccine is meant to fight against the deadliest of the 5 malaria pathogens, and the medicine is given through 4 different injections. Right now, it is estimated that this shot could prevent about 5.3 million malaria cases every single year. In our number 8 spot today, we have Mars. February of 2021 was a big month for Mars, which is hilarious to say, but also very true. In that time, there were 3 different missions that arrived to the Red Planet, and this wasn't really a coincidence. It was just a few different space agencies taking advantage of the Earth-Mars orbit alignment, which only happens once every 26 months. First, the UAE's Hope orbiter reached the planet, which is aimed to study the past, present, and future of the Mars climate by orbiting the planet. This will hopefully show us any patterns or changes on Mars, whether they're daily, monthly, or yearly. Then, the CNSA Tianwen-1 began surveying the surface of the planet from orbit before the Zhurong rover touched down on the planet to actually move around the surface. And then finally, we have the Perseverance rover from NASA, which will spend the next few years digging into the soil and rock to collect samples of the planet for us to study. With all of these Mars visits, one of the most important things we learned, or really tested, is how we can fly through the brutal and harsh Martian atmosphere. Basically, the Ingenuity helicopter that came on the mission with Perseverance helps by scouting out the area ahead to highlight any potential hazards or objects that might be of interest. I had to include this quote from an article on indiatoday.in where I found some of this information because it really sums up this whole point so beautifully. They wrote, quote, "This year on Mars, the UAE learned how to orbit, China learned how to land, and NASA learned how to fly." In our number 7 spot today, we have animal evolution. It isn't necessarily surprising for me to say that humans are having an impact on animal evolution. That much is kind of to be expected, especially since we tend to treat the Earth like we're the only ones who live on it. But 2021 showed us some pretty clear examples of just how we are affecting this change. Studies have now shown a sharp rise in the populations of African elephants without tusks. Why? Well, because of poaching, of course. Poachers killed so many elephants with tusks, especially during the Mozambican Civil War from 1977 to 1992, which left the females without tusks more likely to pass on their genes. Another more indirect way that humans are impacting animal evolution is with the changes that we are experiencing in the climate. A study from Trends in Ecology and Evolution has shown that bats are growing to have bigger wings and rabbits are growing to have longer ears, and these are both likely to dissipate more heat into the surrounding surrounding area and cool them down. A study in Science Advances suggested that 77 species of birds found in a remote patch of the Amazon rainforest were found to weigh less and have longer wings, most likely as a result of rising temperatures as well as the changes in the rainfall pattern. In our number 6 spot today, we have the early humans. This scientific breakthrough involves one of the earliest human species, Neanderthals. Some very cool paleontologists from Madrid created a 3D model of the ear structure of Neanderthals. That alone is just an unbelievable sentence. Scientists in 2021 recreated the ear structures of an early human species that lived 130,000 to 40,000 years ago. And that's not even the wild, crazy discovery. I love science. So, they created these 3D models, and it made them then realize that Neanderthals may have had the ability to speak and hear just like Homo sapiens, which is of course the modern human species. Every year we uncover more and more data and material that challenges what we once thought we knew about the early humans. It is so fascinating and interesting to watch it all unfold. In our number 5 spot today, we have Early Humans Part 2. Remember when I just said 2 seconds ago that every year we learn more that changes what we once believed about the early humans and the history of humans? Well, here's another one. In September of 2021, a study dated footprints that were found in the White Sands National Park, and they were said to be from 21,000 to 23,000 years old. For those of you sitting there being like, well, how could they possibly know how old footprints are? These prints, referred to as the ghost prints, were dated by using radiocarbon dating of the dried ditch grass seeds that were found both above and below the footprints. The reason why this dating was important is because prior to this, many archaeologists placed the start of human life in the Americas at around 13,000 years ago at the end of the last ice age, and this was based on tools that were found in New Mexico. The paper that published this information, which, just for transparency, has been debated by some, suggests that humans actually lived on the continent during the ice age, which of course changes a lot. A month after this find, there was a study published in Nature that showed evidence of Vikings living in North America earlier than what was once thought. The researchers got to this conclusion by examining cut wood and finding samples of a cosmic ray event that happened in 993 CE. This is definitely a couple of discoveries that are still unfolding and being examined and looked into further, but it's all very interesting. In our number 4 spot today, we have quantum computing. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, this is a discovery that I know very little about, if I even know anything on the topic at all, so bear with me as I try to do my best to explain. To my understanding, quantum computers do in seconds what the best supercomputers would take days or weeks to complete and process. These quantum computers use the laws of quantum physics, which is the thing I know nothing about, to get these incredible processing capabilities, which completely changes the game for a multitude of things like meteorology, cybersecurity, national defense, the list just goes on. Okay, so how does this relate to a 2021 moment? Well, in November of last year, IBM launched the 127 Qubit Eagle, which is the most powerful quantum processor ever. Then a company called Quantinum launched a cloud-based cybersecurity platform called Quantum Origin. Meanwhile, I'm in 2022 still trying to figure out what the cloud is. This is said to set the stage for quantum computing to start rapidly evolving, so I guess I'm gonna need to catch up. In our number 3 spot today, we have Heart of Titanium. With the understanding that heart disease takes an estimated 17.9 million lives around the world every year, it makes a lot of sense that for over 50 years, doctors have been trying to find a way to build an artificial heart, and 2021 saw us getting the closest we've ever been. An Australian research team called Bivacor built a titanium heart that uses something called spinning disc technology. Basically, it of course doesn't operate like a normal human heart, but instead it tries to one-up and improve the regular old evolution-perfected human heart and give it an even better way to pump blood around the body. It has a circular pump that is suspended between two magnets that lives inside of this titanium heart. Right now, there has yet to be a full human trial, which makes sense. These things take a lot of time, and it's certainly better not to rush them. The promising news, though, is that the artificial heart has been successful so far in both scenarios in animal trials, as well as when used temporarily on heart transplant patients. In our number 2 spot today, we have coral reefs. Whether you believe in climate change or not, we can all agree that in the last few decades or so, we've seen a lot of natural disasters. From forest fires to droughts and heat waves. Maybe this is a result of climate change, maybe this is just how things go. I'm not here to argue with you, I'm just here to tell you about how this uptick in natural disasters affects our planet. More specifically, our coral reefs. These kinds of disasters and just the general climate of the Earth has an impact on the temperature of the oceans. This change in temperature has caused the reefs, which we forget are living things, to cast out this kind of symbiotic algae that helps them survive, which is then causing the reefs to bleach and then die. In 2021, a huge report was published from from the Global Coral Reef Monitoring Network that showed that the oceans had lost about 14% of their reefs in the last decade. Then another study was later published that showed that there was less than 2% of the Great Barrier Reef that was able to escape bleaching since 1998. And this was all published just months after a different study that suggested that half of all coral reefs have been lost since the 1950s. Unfortunately, our coral reefs are in a lot of danger right now, and it affects more than just the ecology of the ocean. It will also impact us as humans. It impacts fisheries, tourism, coastal developments. I'm not saying that all of these are good reasons to care, but if they're the ones that get someone interested, then I guess it's something worth mentioning. In our number one spot today, we have the fireball. On February 28th, 2021, reports came pouring in from across the UK of an unusual streak of light that was seen in the sky. These reports were far behind the UK's Fireball Alliance, though, as their cameras had already picked up the signal and they were already in the midst of estimating its landing site. That's right, this streak of light was a meteor. It's a remnant of our early solar system that has been flying through space at unbelievable speeds until it came down through our atmosphere and ended its long, awesome journey scattered in a bunch of pieces across rural Gloucestershire. Teams were sent out to be responsible for the recovery of the extraterrestrial material, which was found in a family's driveway as well as in a sheep's field nearby. This meteorite is a rare specimen known as primitive carbonaceous chondrite, which is said to contain materials that have been essentially unaltered since the formation of the solar system 4.5 billion years ago. The pieces of this meteorite can give us insights into the building blocks of the planets, and it can potentially give us clues as to how the Earth came to be this wonderful planet that possesses all of the resources necessary to sustain human life.
Kicking off the list at number 10. Particle accelerator. We love science experiments. Baking soda and vinegar, a DIY volcano, boom, let's make a mess. But what if we flew too close to the sun? What if one experiment could, I don't know, hypothetically swallow our known universe? Sounds fun, let's do it. Sir Martin Rees, Britain's royal astronomer, shines some light on a dark possibility in his book, On the Future. The particle accelerator is this massive machine that does exactly that. It smashes these charged particles together at a high speed, all in the name of science. Now we're trying to further understand condensed matter physics, and while it sure sounds impressive, what if it goes south? What if somebody f***s up? Well, if that happens, it could possibly destroy our known universe. Apparently, these particles smashing together could create this strange matter that shrinks Earth down to 300 feet in diameter. So we'd be tiny or dead. Either way, we'd be like, oh shit. Or it creates a black hole that would suck away our entire existence. Thanks, Martin. Now we'll be able to sleep because I'm thinking of particle colliders. Freddy Krueger and also particle colliders. I'm like, this holiday season sucks. Can't sleep. Number 9, black holes. Christopher Nolan can't even save us from this one. There are 3 types of black holes. We got stellar, supermassive, and intermediate mass. And they can all kill us easily if they wanted to. Black holes are formed when a star dies. And in turn, we get the strongest Dyson vacuum ever. It sucks in light, so of course we wouldn't make it. There's no chance. There's about 10 million black holes in the Milky Way right now. And the closest one is about 1,500 light years away. So we're looking good for now. We actually got a photo of a black hole not too long ago. It's beautiful. We're learning more and more every year. And one of the scariest facts that I heard was that black holes will be the last thing in the known universe. And these things orbit as well. They don't just sit in the same spot. Like everything else in the galaxy, black holes are also moving around, which means one will eventually get close. Do you think they would tell us if a black hole was about to swallow us? I sure hope not. I mean, no spoilers, come on. I'm only on season 27 of my life. Keep it real. Number 8, solar flares. Solar flares just sound scary, you know? Our star heats up, we literally revolve around it, and it blesses us with life and tan lines and all the good stuff, but sometimes she acts up. Sometimes she creates these powerful magnetic fields that create sunspots larger than our planet. This then creates a stream of radiation. It's called solar wind. Now normally this is a beautiful event. The northern lights happen because of Earth's magnetic field reacting to this radiation. But too much of a good thing can be disastrous. This month even, on October 9th, a large solar flare was spotted, and 3 days later, it hit. The geomagnetic storm reached category G2, which out of 5 is still quite strong. The biggest solar event was actually back in 1859. It's called the Carrington event. It was strong enough to disrupt telegraph communications, even shocking some telegraph operators. Imagine that, if this happens again and it's stronger, we're looking at power outages on a massive scale. You'd be playing VR, and then all of a sudden your eyes are like, poof, and just explode. Lovely. Immersive. 10 out of 10. Number 7, Moving stars. We look at the pyramids of Egypt in awe for many reasons, but as far as placement goes, these 3 pyramids align with the stars of Orion's belt. But what happens when these stars, like everything else in our known universe, moves? The pyramids won't align with stars forever. They will wander, but which direction will these stars go? That's the question here. Well, right now our sun is traveling through the Milky Way. It's carrying us along. We're in this moderately chill space bubble right now, but when we leave this region, say in, I don't know, 50,000 years, we have a great chance of bumping into one of these wandering stars. You think our climate is changing now? Well, you better learn how to be immortal and hang out for 50,000 years. Be a vampire and you'll see what a comet looks like up close. It's very cold and hot at the same time. We're not gonna survive. We have like 20 years left, realistically. Number 6, artificial intelligence. Okay, this one sounds silly, but we're actually quite close to getting Ultron in real life. God help us. We have robots that do parkour now. Like, you can push these things, they would still continue to silly walk. Have you seen those videos where they get pushed and they're like, bleep, and they keep going? That's crazy. Now imagine if Siri decided to go rogue one day and then take over the body of one of the Boston Dynamic robots. We're f***ed. It's game over. That's it. I've seen iRobot. I don't want any part of this. No thank you. According to CB Insights, where they asked 52 experts, 52, so specific, they all agreed that AI will eventually be our downfall, and by that time, it's too late. I'm sweating reading that. What? The late Stephen Hawking said AI would be impossible to control. Elon Musk has been reinforcing how crucial it is to regulate AI. We can't regulate technology that we can't predict. That's the main thing here. Even Vladimir Putin says AI will have a profound impact on global politics. And are we really going to disagree with Vladimir Putin? No, we're not. Next. Number 5, asteroid impact. Number 5, asteroid impact. Of course, one of our leading theories as to how humans can all of a sudden go extinct is an asteroid. We've seen movies. These suckers have caused large-scale extinction events before us. Every time there's a meteor shower, people think it's beautiful, when in reality it's like sitting near first and third base at a baseball game. Flying at you non-stop, like we're way too close. Every meteor shower, I'm just like, if one of these days an asteroid got too close, it would pretty much mean the end of humanity, regardless of where it hits on Earth. In fact, an asteroid named Apophis is set to slam into us in 100 years or so. Now, we originally thought that it would hit in 2029, but now we can add 100 years on top of that. It's a big orbit. So we're okay for now. For your grandkids though, heads up Whoville, good luck. Number 4, global warming. Okay, this one's on us, folks. Or at least a little bit. We're for sure to blame in some capacity. Now I'm trying to fight it. Around 90% of scientists say that humans are to blame for global warming, especially people who vape. That's what they said. I read it myself. I'm not making that up. According to climate.gov, we're cooking our planet with heat-trapping gases. Greenhouse gases in the atmosphere equals heat. Our global average temperature has gone up 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit since the late 90s. Carbon dioxide, methane, ozone, nitrous, and numerous chlorofluorocarbons, which is fun to say. Chlorofluorocarbons, nice. More like borofluorocarbons. Billy Madison reference. Stop littering. Next. Number 3, Yellowstone National Park. Nothing like a big old volcano to shake up your day. The supervolcano rumbling under Yellowstone National Park could wipe out millions if it decided to go off one day. It's exploded 3 times in the past. 2 million years ago, pop. 1.3 million years ago, pop. And then 664,000 years ago, boom. The next one, well, it could happen as soon as you click like and subscribe. How scary is that? Back in 2014, a team of researchers laid out what an erupting Yellowstone could actually look like in real life, and it's terrifying. It's massive. Entire states would be gone. Poof. Hot magma would then rain down as far as San Francisco, and on top of all that chaos, volcanic ash would cover most of our sunlight. It would be a dark and cold world for a little while. They of course had a Yellowstone scene in the movie 2012, and while sure, it's cinematic, I guess, it would be a lot louder and way faster. You can't check your rearview mirrors while Yellowstone is blasting off. I'm sorry folks, you just can't do this. Number 2, expanding sun. Our sun isn't strong enough to create a black hole after its death, which is a nice thought after hearing about black holes, you know, sucking in light and your hopes and dreams. This is good news, but we do know that our sun will eventually die, and it's set to happen in about, drumroll, 7 billion years, so plenty of time to get that tan at the water park. We're still looking alright. It'll eventually become a white dwarf though, just floating in the cosmos. Now we won't get to see this of course because we'll be long gone, but if anybody is still hanging out by then, just still kicking it, still healing around, they'll unfortunately witness the sun get larger and cooler. It's predicted that it'll suck in Venus and Mercury, but as for Earth, well, solar winds generated would hypothetically be strong enough to slow Earth down. So we wouldn't get sucked into the sun, we would instead face a slow, hot death. And you thought it was hot outside now. Well, hang out for a bit. Well, it's pretty bad, but it'll get worse. And finally, number 1, nuclear weapons. In 1938, history changed forever when German nuclear physicist Otto Hahn Fritz Strassmann and Lise Meitner discovered nuclear fission in a lab in Berlin. They discovered that an atom splitting into lighter atoms caused a powerful blast. This was groundbreaking. Humans discovered a new way to power technology, but at the same time they opened the door for nuclear horrors. Atomic bombs. On July 16, 1945, the Trinity test was conducted. The first atomic bomb was detonated in a New Mexico desert. It was deemed a success, with mushroom clouds reaching up to 40,000 feet high. This test changed history forever. Roughly 110,000 lives were later lost at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and many believe that nuclear warfare will truly be the end of humanity. The pure impact alone is one thing, but nuclear winters, where clouds of dust and black smoke just block out the sun for days at a time, could obviously have lasting effects. For example, if there was an all-out nuclear war between Russia and the United States, officials predict that temperatures would drop 8 degrees for 5 or 6 years, so we wouldn't even be able to grow food at that time. It would be absolute chaos. Stop bombing each other.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the earthquake detector. In 132 AD, a man named Zhang Hen was able to create the first earthquake detector called the seismoscope. Far ahead of its time, this creation was incredibly accurate and is actually comparable in efficiency to those that we use now. Apparently, in 138, this tool detected an earthquake that was a ways away, and at the time nobody believed it and dismissed the warning. A few days later, a messenger arrived and asked for help, which confirmed that this thing really did accurately detect an earthquake and where it was coming from. Researchers still aren't sure exactly how it works, which is so crazy, but I guess some things are just meant to be a mystery. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Gangkar Puensum. This mountain is the largest mountain that has been unclimbed by humans and stands at a height of 7,570 meters or 24,836 feet. Studies and measurements of this mountain started 100 years ago in 1922, but it wasn't until much more recently that we began to acquire actually accurate details about it. The name of the mountain means White Peak of the Three Spiritual Brothers, which becomes an important part of why this mountain remains unclimbed. In 1983, the mountain became open for mountaineering, but between 1985 and 1986, there were 4 separate expeditions who tried to summit it and failed. Part of the reason why these expeditions failed were because there were disputes on the location and there was just inaccurate information, so the first group who tried to summit it couldn't even find the mountain at all. In 1994, the climbing of mountains in Bhutan higher than 6,000 meters became prohibited due to spiritual beliefs, and in 2003, mountaineering became prohibited entirely. This is why the mountain remains unsummited, and while I'm sure it would be an amazing expedition for climbers, who knows what is going on up there in terms of ecology due to it being left alone. In our number 8 spot today, we have the ancient seabed. A seabed that was once located at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean was found buried hundreds of miles beneath China. This slab of rock once found its home at the top of the lithosphere, which is the outermost layer of the Earth. How did it get hundreds of miles below China? Well, it got pushed down by a neighboring tectonic plate in what is called a subduction event. This discovery was so notable because scientists had never detected a subduction event so deep within the surface of the planet. When they found this rock slab, it was still continuing its descent towards the mantle of the Earth. I wonder if one day it will come back to the surface again. In our number 7 spot today, we have a gibbon skull. Gibbons are a type of ape that are often characterized by their swinging ability coupled with their loud, bright calls, and the 8th century Chinese poet Li Bai described their voices as they swung past the Yangtze River, but here's the thing. Today, there are no gibbons that live anywhere near the river. Also, the gibbons that exist now have different fur patterns from the ones that are often depicted in classical Chinese paintings. This has led experts to believe that there must have been another kind of gibbon that has now vanished, and physical evidence of this gibbon might have turned up in the most unexpected place. A tomb. This tomb, which was built for the grandmother of the first emperor of China nearly 2,300 years ago, contained a skull and a jawbone so distinct that scientists believed they must have belonged to a member of this now extinct gibbon genus. Many surviving gibbon species are now facing extinction, so it is likely that there were others in the past who unfortunately faced the same kind of fate. In our number 6 spot today, we have the green gel. This is a discovery that was made by the Yutu-2 rover, which is currently exploring our wonderful moon. On Lunar Day 8 last year, which began on July 25th, the rover was doing its thing, finding its way through an area that was filled with a bunch of small impact craters. On July 28th, as the team here on Earth was preparing to power down the rover for its little midday nap, which is meant to protect the machine from high temperatures and radiation from the sun, one member of the team was checking over some images that were taken by the rover's main camera, and they spotted a small crater that seemed like it contained some sort of material that had a color and a sort of luster that was significantly different from the lunar area surrounding it. The team then changed the plans they had for the rover and decided that instead of going west, which was next on the schedule, they would instead take a little detour to check out this mystery material. The rover carefully made its way over to the crater and examined it with both its visible and near-infrared spectrometer, which is a thing that detects lights that are scattered or reflected off of a material, which helps to reveal what they're made up of. For a while, no one knew exactly what the substance was, and it was only being described as being gel-like and being a weird color, but after almost a year of more research, it was finally identified. It's rock. More specifically, rock that was melted together, most likely in the heat of impact from a meteorite. It's insane that something like that created a dark green, glistening impact melt, but it's also very cool. I'm just glad that this is one mystery that we got to the bottom of. In our number 5 spot today, we have the Gobi Desert structure. This is one discovery that had conspiracy theorists' minds absolutely swirling. About a decade ago, someone was searching through some Google Maps images when they found a mysterious array of structures and patterns that appeared to be etched into the surface of the Gobi Desert, which is of course located in China. The structures are reminiscent of geoliths, but they are seemingly much more modern and newly created. The speculation of what this structure could be or why it was created went wild, with people saying that they were street maps of American cities or messages either to or from some sort of extraterrestrials. The list of bizarre theories just goes on. While this is still sort of conspiracy sounding, this is likely the most reasonable explanation for what these structures are, and that is that these structures are used to help calibrate China's spy and radar satellites. To be fair, this does make a lot of sense, and I don't have any other ideas on what it could be for, so. In our number 4 spot today, we have the DROUGHTS. Ancient drawings and writings were found covering the walls of the Dayu cave, which is located in central China, and a lot of them detail different droughts and such that were experienced during their time of their writing. According to these drawings, people would come to the cave for either water or to pray for rain in times of drought. The writings reveal some of the horrors that the people of the time experienced while going through these periods of drought, including severe starvation, social instability, and conflict between government and citizens. While these cave writings show us a difficult time in history, researchers say that the stalagmites that were also found in the cave might show a grim prediction for the future. Since these are formed by dripping water and they form sort of rings, like how trees do, and these rings can give us insights into different things. Based on the patterns of these rings, scientists were able to corroborate the things that the cave writings were saying, but they were also able to make a grim prediction for the future, which is that unfortunately the region may again see one of these catastrophic droughts, this time in the late 2030s. In our number 3 spot today, we have the ruins. Taking over our number 3 spot today, we have the most recent discovery on this list. While archaeologists were digging at one of the most important archaeological sites in China just earlier this year, they found a bronze altar as well as a dragon with a pig's nose, among many other things, in a couple of the sacrificial pits that are seen at this site. In fact, they said the findings were made in sacrificial pits 7 and 8, to which I have to ask, how many are there? Another highlight of the new finds was a bronze box with a tortoise-shaped lid. Inside, this box contained jade artifacts, and even traces of silk fabric were found around it. These finds are so astonishing because every little piece gives us so much insight into the buried secrets of the ancient Chinese civilization. In our number 2 spot today, we have an ancient mystery. While excavating a tomb in China, the team discovered the skeleton of a young man that was riddled with wounds, giving clues as to how he died. The man is estimated to have been about 25 years old at the time of his death, and it is thought that he was harmed and then thrown into the tomb raider's shaft while still alive, which is absolutely gruesome. It is believed that this crime took place between 640 and 680 AD. It appears as though he wasn't a thief because the shaft had begun to be refilled with soil by the time of his death, so we really aren't sure why this young man met this cruel fate. As a true crime enthusiast myself, this is absolutely fascinating, and I wish we could find some answers answers to bring this guy's story full circle. But sometimes these things are just destined to stay a secret. In our number 1 spot today we have the palace. Archaeologists and researchers were certainly baffled a few years ago when they were digging beneath the foundation of the Lifang Pagoda, which sits on Lifang Mountain. Well, digging isn't exactly the right word. To be honest, there was a huge stone or boulder that weighed over 1,500 pounds that was lifted away, which then revealed a stone tablet. Once this tablet was lifted, it revealed a huge underground palace. Inside this palace, researchers found many hidden treasures that included a Buddhist statue, bronze mirrors, coins, and there was also a rusty iron case that was found during the initial discovery, which researchers believe held many relics. The pagoda that sat on top of this hidden palace was first completed in 976 AD, so it is thought that this area remained untouched from at least then until its modern discovery.
Kicking off the list at number 10, WASP 96b. Okay, we have to talk about some James Webb goodness in this list, of course. NASA just released a handful of photos from its $10 billion project. This telescope launched last Christmas and the gifts have finally arrived. And I'm terrified. We are so small in the universe. What is going on? In the cluster of photos, we see a giant exoplanet called WASP 96. And no, it is not full of wasps. I mean, I hope not, who's to say? But it could hold secrets behind human existence. WASP 96 is a gas planet half the size of Jupiter, 1,150 years away from us. It orbits its star every 3 to 5 days, so I hope you love New Year's parties because you're gonna have a lot of them. Thanks to our boy James Webb up there in space, we can now see that there's lots of water surrounding this planet. Clouds and haze, says NASA. That's good. I'm excited for more water to be found in the universe, but I'm also nervous because, more water means more fish and, also f*** up aliens. Number 9, Kepler 1649c. Yeah, it's not all about James Webb today, okay? NASA's Kepler Space Telescope also discovered this one a while back, but while NASA was revisiting old observations in 2018 before, retiring said telescope, they noticed previous computer algorithms misidentified it, and upon second glance, it's indeed an exoplanet. Yep, 300 light years away from Earth, it's a tad larger than our planet, and it receives a good amount of starlight. It receives about 75% of what our own sun gives off. Thing is, Kepler 1649c orbits a red dwarf, meaning solar flare-ups could prevent further life from evolving, which could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, I don't know. No aliens, please, thanks. Number 8, Ross 128b. I love the names for all these exoplanets. It's just like Jake 21a. You're like, okay. Potentially habitable. So much monster energy. Back in 2017, this exoplanet was discovered by Xavier Bonfils at the Institute of Planetology and Astrophysics of Grenoble. Now this one is 11 light years away from us. It's pretty close. And it only takes 10 days to complete a trip around its M-type star. The star is redder, cooler, and dimmer, so perhaps this planet could one day host life. Or maybe it one day already did. Who's to say? Either way. Don't want it. Don't want any part of these aliens. Number 7, Ice Moon. We're looking billions of years into the past, we're searching cosmic clouds light years away, but what about our own galaxy? What about our own solar system? What about our own moon? Could there one day be life on our moon? Back in 2018, NASA confirmed that there is surface ice on the moon's north and south pole. This was huge. NASA mineralogy mapper instruments picked up ice traces near the darkest and coldest craters of the rock. There are 3 specific signatures that prove that there is 100% water ice on the surface of moon. Yeah, and we're talking about aliens whipping out of our oceans. Like, what's going on here? Something's afoot. Number 6, Levelland Flaming Thing. Nice, that's a good title. Imagine opening the newspaper back in 1957 and on the front cover you read, "Levelland Flaming Thing brings world knocking at city's door." That's alarming, that's a pretty crazy one. What does that even mean, right? Back in 1957 in Levelland, Texas, multiple eyewitness reports began to flood in about an egg-shaped object or this circular flash of light, something egg-like, jetting across Levelland skies. I just like saying Levelland, if I'm being honest. I'm trying to say it as many times as I can. I'm probably saying it wrong, it's probably like Leveland, but I'm gonna keep going with Levelland. One witness recalls the object making a loud humming noise as it flew by, which is different than other accounts that we've heard so far for, UFOs. The egg shape keeps coming back in history, right? We've seen this in multiple accounts, but this is an encounter where it's been reported as loud, with a great rush of wind. And on top of that claim, the witness's car radio began to go haywire. It was like, it was like, case you missed it the first time. The radio thing isn't too crazy. I mean, growing up, my computer speakers would always tell me if a phone call was about to come in. Felt like I was from the future. That was always odd. The Air Force also commented on it, saying that this was just a phenomenon caused by electrical storms. It was a ball of lightning, they say. Ball of lightning, back in 1957. Crazy, haven't seen many of those since. Number 5, 2017 UFO. I remember this one because I was really scared, not sure what was happening with the universe. Back in 2017, after the existence of the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program became more well known, a video was then released of an encounter between an FA-18 Super Hornet and some sort of unidentified flying object. A UFO. Or a UAP, sorry, we don't say UFOs anymore, now it's a UAP. There weren't a ton of details released about what exactly happened during this encounter because there weren't any details to provide, but the Raytheon Advanced Targeting Forward Locking Infrared, or ATFLR if you're out of breath like me, they were able to capture an extremely fast moving white oval that was around 45 feet long. The oval had no wings and didn't appear to have any kind of exhaust either. They were tracking a UFO at the altitude of 25,000 feet just above the Atlantic Ocean. And then they were shocked because the craft rotated on its side and then just flew away. There was no explanation released with the footage because it truly is unbelievable and no one can figure it out yet. If you have any ideas, sound off below. All these mystery eggs floating in and out of our towns. Number 4, Europa life. One of Jupiter's moons, called Europa, has a red tinge around it, and in 2001, NASA scientists revealed that it's possible that alien microbes may be responsible for said red tinge. The surface of its moon is mostly icy, but it has been shown that it reflects infrared radiation in a bizarre way. This means that something is binding it together, but researchers haven't been able to come up with the correct combination of elements and compounds to make this data make any sense. Know what I mean? There are some bacteria on Earth that can thrive in extreme conditions, some fish that have never seen light ever, and they're glowy somehow. The surface temperature might be too cold for them to survive, but the warmer interior might be where they're all located. Some geological activity on the moon could then push them closer to the surface, where they then flash frozen in place. What a horrible way to go. Number 3, Venus cloud. Back in September 2020, astrobiologists everywhere were excited, but also skeptical at some new potential evidence that had been found in the upper clouds of Venus. You probably heard about this, right? Firstly, can we just take a second to really think about how cool of a job it is to be an astrobiologist? To just be like, yep, aliens, let's do it. And then they plan a mission and then take off. Anyways, phosphine is very rare, and usually it's poisonous gas here on Earth that is basically always met with the presence of living organisms, right? So we find this gas, it's bad, but always connects with life. Venus hasn't really been at the top of the list for choices for finding potential life due to its surface temperature, of course, and pressure to the, sulfuric acids in the clouds, and it's horrible and you can never live there ever. But this new evidence could prove to say something otherwise. 2 separate telescopes were able to pick up the signatures of phosphine in a cloud that had a similar temperature and pressure to Earth, and while this isn't concrete evidence of, space beings or bugs or anything like that, it'll at least be a reminder that we should be continuing to look for life or clues around life, you know what I mean? Even in the most unlikely places, like Venus clouds. Maybe it's space bugs also, who knows? That'd be gross. Space moths that live in clouds of phosphine. That would suck. Number 2. Astronaut sightings. We could sit on Earth all day and talk about the potential for said alien life, but who would know more than the people who have actually been to space, right? I mean, who am I? I'm just a guy who makes YouTube videos. Ask the people who have been out there, which are of course astronauts. Ask astronauts. That'd be a cool website, Ask Astronauts. It probably is a website, actually. Definitely on the list of the coolest and scariest jobs in the entire world. There haven't been a ton of people who have had the, privilege of experiencing space firsthand, but there are even less of them who have claimed to see something that could potentially prove alien existence. People who have claimed these sorts of things include Edgar Mitchell, Catherine Coleman, and Dr. Brian O'Leary. The very interesting part about many of these claims is that they will also include some sort of government cover-up as well with their claim. So it's always pretty juicy. There was also Buzz Aldrin, who spoke about his Apollo 11 experience, and he detailed the crew seeing something flying alongside them, but at first they believed it was the final stage of a detached rocket. But then Mission Control confirmed that that rocket was actually 6,000 miles away from them at the time, so there was no answers on what said flying object could have been. But they noticed it, as would you in a spaceship looking out of a window. And finally, number 1, moon life. Titan is one of Saturn's many moons. Saturn has 82 moons, so if there's any aliens hiding near Saturn, we're never gonna find them. They have many places to hide. A lot of nooks and crannies to hide behind. A lot of moons to hide behind. That's a lot of moons. And around 10 years ago, NASA's Cassini spacecraft detected water under its massive shell of ice, which is really exciting. Again, like I said with our own moon, even traces of water is amazing, let alone this much. To quote a Cassini team member, the search for water is an important goal in solar system exploration, and now we've spotted another place where it is abundant. NASA has also detected low frequency radio waves on the icy moon, and it sounds pretty eerie. So we have radio waves and we have water. Sounds like aliens to me, my friends. As far as space mysteries go, anywhere that has water or signs of water, fish. Some sort of alien fish is hiding in there. Look at our own planet. Look at an octopus. An octopus changes colors while it dreams. Alien.